Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and it is time for us to speak, I'm about to say it, Coach, with our guru football coach, Heist Northern. How you doing today, my man?
Everything going pretty good, trying to, get ready for the weekend, celebrated a birthday on Valentine's Day, and, had a chance to, go out with the wife and the kids, and my sister-in-law lives not too far from us, and my sister lives not too far, so we all get together, whoever in town, usually for my birthday, and then my wife and I celebrate another anniversary next Wednesday, so usually just she and I go out to dinner. So, it was a good day for the Northern family, I should say.
Very good, very good, and congratulations, man, on the birthday, the anniversary, and everything that's just going up, man. February is a special, busy month for you.
Yes, and then my dad just celebrated a birthday last week, so, that was big. He just made 78, so we just, fortunate enough to still have him up and around. And I thought that he was going to be out here with me and we were going to go hunting, but, as soon as we get together, wherever we are, we'll hit the woods somewhere and hit the woods as well as go chop some wood for next year for the fireplace. So it's
right. Now, is the old man still a pretty good shot, man?
Yeah, he's real good. He ain't gonna take no long shots now, but he gonna take the ones he like the old man. All he gonna do is take them bank shots and make sure they count.
That's all right. That's all right. As I said, the gift that keeps on giving, man. And I know you got Adam acclimated into the northern tradition of hunting, and so hopefully one day when you're a grandpapa, he'll be passing on the tradition.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, look, speaking of passing on traditions, we got a lot to get caught up in with this the latest coaches movement and some announcements coming up from the NCAA with some potential proposals on how they would like to see things going on in the future. So I guess we'll start at home and work with what's going on in that coaching shuffle, man.
Yeah, it's still some movement going on within the conference and pretty much all over college football. I started in the conference. Jackson State lost their offensive coordinator to another FBS program. Then the shocker, I think, of all was Chip Kelly stepping down at UCLA to take an offensive coordinator job at Ohio State. So, and then I just saw Georgia State coach step down to take a job back at South Carolina where he's from. So it's still a lot of movement. It's like signing day didn't mean anything to some of these guys. And, I guess there's going to be some guys that's going to enter the transfer portal. So maybe, a few schools in the conference might can pick up some guys that, hey, you guys are recruiting, but we got a coaching change. And once a coach leaves, the transfer portal at that school opens for 30 days. I don't know if a lot of people actually knew that was the case. So it's not just a national portal day. It's if your head coach leaves portal as well for some of those for the student athletes at those particular schools.
Right. Well, with the shift in dynamics with college sports as we once upon a time used to know it, the December 15th initial signing day and this February signing day, they're becoming a bit obsolete, and it's been even recommended in a couple of articles I stumbled across that maybe now you should have the official commitment day somewhere in August, maybe August 31st. That way you have that window time, because with the bowl games and now the extension of the playoffs for college football, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and it can kind of disrupt your flow of trying to focus on your main season at hand at that time.
Well, one of the things, some of the quote-unquote big schools proposed that before because they didn't want to quote-unquote have to babysit kids throughout the season, and they looked at it like, if basketball can do it, why we can't sort of get it out of the way type of deal and let these kids that they committed, let them sign so we don't have to babysit them. So, but the problem was a lot of people were signing kids or getting commitments out of camps, and then the kid will go and maybe not have such a good senior year and then they have to renege on that offer, or a kid may get injured going into his senior year, and you sign a kid, and you may not want to rehab a kid at that particular position. You may be looking for somebody to come in and help. So that's sort of why they didn't do the August signing period, because it was brought up at one time, and they moved it to the December early signing period for high schoolers because the big boys was tired of being poached, tired of having to babysit a kid, tired of having to tell a kid, look, if you take this visit, you can't take, or we going to pull our offer and all that kind of stuff. So that's a big reason why the recruiting calendar is the way it is, and why they may be changing it back. With all the coaching movement going on, they may just go back to a one-deal signing day and just leave the transfer portal open, and then just let the junior college, used to be a mid-year, just a junior college signing day, not transfer portal, junior college, and high school signing day in December.
Right. So the more we dig deeper, the more we figure out we don't know what we're doing.
Like you say, the smartest people in the room ain't always the smartest people sometimes.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Well, we'll keep a monitor on that to see how all of these things pan out. And a lot of people are still buzzing about this Prairie View playing the Big Ten opponent, Michigan State. They were supposed to be playing Louisiana, and Louisiana was supposed to be getting $1.2 million for that game. They had to pay a $500,000 exiting fee, and people are saying that Prairie View should get that $1 million that they want to offer to Louisiana, but a lot of people are failing to miss the mark. Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, was a Group 5 FBS, and because Prairie View is under the FCS program status, there are some limitations and maximum deals that they can receive from that level. Is that right?
Well, it depends on how you do it. So one of the things, and I'll put it like this, it's a couple of schools in a conference at one time that could demand it, and I'll just, put it plainly. It was Jackson State, Southern, and Grambling because of their name, Southern because of the band, Jackson because of their brand and their band as well. So, and now you bring Florida A&M into it. So it's a few schools that could say, okay, they could throw in, if we bring a part of the band or the band, then they could say, okay, we'll give you X amount of dollars. But if it's just a football team only, that may be another problem. In some schools, if it's not going to count towards bowl eligibility, which you can use the FCS program, I want to say every 4 years you can count an FCS win towards bowl eligibility, then that's another reason where you can say, all right, we can demand a little bit more money, but it's not written in stone that you can't give an FCS program but so much. But what some schools, just say if the head coach at Michigan State went to a certain school, he came from a certain school, he may say, okay, as a token of appreciation, we'll give this school a little bit more money, because they're not going to miss the difference between $750,000 and $1.2 million. They're not going to miss that. That's 4 or 5 recruits to them. So it's not, like you say, written in stone that you can't give them that much. It's just you have to go in and politic and bargain based off of how they going to count the win, how many people do I have to bring, or how many people do I get to bring, because normally for a road game you may only get to bring 60 players, but since you play in the FBS school, you may say, okay, we need to bump it up to 80 just in case you get into a blowout situation. You want to bring more kids to let them see it. You may bargain for more okay, we need to bring X amount of trainers as well as equipment staff, all those types of things that the lay person, as they say, wouldn't think about, goes into contract negotiation. And I know what some schools started doing. They started adding in different things like, okay, if we play you guys, then you guys have to purchase us X amount of Microsoft tablets or Apple iPads, and it goes directly to the football program. And now you sort of see how people are negotiating just for their program. Or just say if Michigan State is a Adidas school, Prairie View is a Adidas school, they may say, okay, you for the next 3 years you have to give us 100 pair of cleats along with X amount of equipment. So it's things like that that are going on behind the scenes that add to what that total commitment to the guarantee is.
Now, in most cases, this is the negotiation done by the athletic directors, correct?
And sometimes the football coach can get involved and say, like, you know, when we talk about what percentage goes directly to football, because, you know, everybody hadn't only coached at an HBCU. Somebody may say, hey, when we was at such and such, we got this when we played at FBS school. So that assistant coach may bring it to the athletic director, or if the head coach sits in on the contract, or what are we looking for, then he may bring that up. And then, like you say, you have to bargain or negotiate with your athletic director while he's negotiating with the possible school that you're going to play with against as well.
Well, the one thing that has always been a bit baffling for me is that in majority, I'm not going to say all cases, the athletic directors have been negotiating the games without really involving the coach until after the fact the deal has been made.
Yeah, and that's sort of where you can run into some problems. I put it like that lightly, because if you don't have the other things in place to make it where you can be successful to win that game, or where your program, when I say your, I mean the football program in particular, can reap the benefits of that game, then, you know, I think some coaches will look at the athletic director like, man, why would you put me in this situation more than, okay, this is going to help the program, even though it is some, but it's got to help to a certain extent.
Right. I've always looked at that we've used these type of games as a shortcut for fundraising instead of totally benefiting, as you said, the overall impact, not only of your football program, but the other programs that are attached to this one game. So it's always intriguing to see how these things maneuver. Now, if you can go back in your Rolodex, and I know Rolodex is an obsolete word to the young folks today, what was some of the most unique negotiation pieces that you had to use when you were in particularly playing up?
The amount of people that you can bring to a game. Are you gonna fly? Or you gonna bus? How, you can negotiate how many hotel rooms they pay for. All those types of things that get thrown in. Or you can negotiate where you're gonna eat. So just say to feed, just say 100 people may travel with the Prairie View football team when they go to a game. So you may say on average, on the low end, they may be eating $20 a meal unless you go to, sometimes we would go eat at Golden Corral to save money sometimes. But if you ate at the hotel, and then some hotels have a minimum, if you're staying overnight, a minimum of how much you have to spend with the hotel cafeteria per se, and then how much you have to spend on meeting rooms, how much you have to spend on food, all those types of things, and the amount of rooms that you have to spend. So you can negotiate the rooms, the food, all of that into the contract as well. So you may say, all right, if we're going to play Louisiana Lafayette, you got to give us a hotel with at least 30 double bedrooms, and 10, each coach usually gets their own room depending on where you're playing. And then all of your trainers, they usually double up. All of your equipment managers that are students still double up. Then you try to have all your adults that are on the payroll, have them singled up to a room. So you can negotiate that into the contract as well.
Okay. Now, I know with this season coming up for 2024, this will be the year that you get a chance to play 12 FCS games, and I really like that, and I wish they would implicate that on a regular basis. And I know part of it, they said, well, because of the way the 13 weeks fall out into a regular football schedule, when you can put this 12 games in. But I always said, if you eliminate this old quirky rule about week 0 and allow teams to start playing as a whole on week 0 leading up to that week 13, and with the structure of the Southwestern Athletic Conference as we actually know it now, you could end up actually playing everyone within your conference plus a guaranteed money game each year, and it would really be an in-house problem fixed.
Yeah, but the problem is some schools are going to say, if it's not going to count towards the conference race, why play everybody when I can go out and play up and make way more money playing an hour down the road as opposed to even playing a home game for myself? Or just say if you're Prairie View and you have to play Bethune-Cookman and it's not your homecoming, you're not going to have a good turnout for that game on most years. So Prairie View may say, hey, man, we can go play U of H or Rice and get $300,000, and now we have a problem solved. And it's not like you playing the University of Texas where you're going to almost need an off week after you finish that game. It's someone that a lot of times, I mean, the last time Prairie View played right, they really should have beat them. But, you know, it's one of those games that's going to be competitive, you know, 6 out of 10 years. A couple years, they may run away from you, but a lot of times that's going to be a competitive game. So that's the problem that, you know, as far back as 10 and 15 years ago, we were running into as a conference, because a lot of people didn't want, you know, some people wanted to play the Mississippi Valleys or the Bethunes when they were down, and some people didn't because they knew they wasn't going to make any money. Just like, to be honest with you, a couple of years when I was at Prairie View, a couple schools on the eastern side did not want to play us because, number one, we started getting better as a football program. Nobody wanted to lose to Prairie View. And number two, Prairie View didn't travel well. So it's like, what's the purpose of playing Prairie View at our place when Prairie View was on the road, when we're not going to make any money off that game? And that's a fact.
Right. And that still goes back to that C word that I won't even call out today, but because whether you win or losing, the bottom line is you support your program to the best of your abilities. That's what separates a casual fan from a dedicated fan. So we'll keep on moving down the road on that one. So when we look at these things that are shaping up, and we got the restructure of the conference coming as it is, and we know that the regional play is an important factor. And to be quite honest with you, depending on who you're playing regional, those games don't travel as well as they could, but at least it does add an extra notch to your belt as far as the level of competition goes. When you look at it, I know we talked about the Michigan State deal. In this case of a Texas, because of the wide variety of programs available in the state of Texas, there's almost really no need to leave the state for a quote-unquote money game, is it?
No, and part of it is, you know, they're going to have certain schools that they're going to play, and it's almost at one time, I don't ever recall them playing an FBS school, but at times A&M would. But, you know, it's like they know they can make money. You know, they can play anybody and, you know, a spring game and make money at some of those schools. So they can have their picks and choose of who they want to play and where they want to play. And, you know, like I say, you get back into that regional and traveling versus not traveling. There's a couple schools in the conference. If you go back and look at, I'll just say like a Northwestern State, McNeese State, a couple of those schools, if you go back and look at their most highly attended game, even Louisiana Lafayette, their most highly attended game are going to be versus HBCUs, the Southerns, the Grambling, the Jacksons, as opposed to even someone in their conference. So, you know, you sort of have a reason to keep it regional if you're those schools, but a school like the University of Texas, they can thumb their nose at people, and you know, because of the amount of money that they have and can create off a home game, they can sort of pick and choose. But, you know, I don't recall them playing any FCS programs, even those in the state of Texas.
Right. And another challenge to that piece to become a reality is the scheduling opportunity, because most of these schools, man, they got games scheduled out as far as 10 years down the road for the non-conference schedule.
Yes, and even in the, like you say, when you talk about the non-conference games that they pick and choose, then they get dictated to who they have to play in the conference. Then with conference realignment happening, there's still going to be more games that they're going to be told when to play. And then what usually happens, they have a database, and you can go in as a coach or athletic director and say, right now it's 2024. In 2026, let me see who has an open date for week 3. Well, I know I may have an open date. Or let me see who has an open date that last weekend before Thanksgiving if I don't have a game. Somebody may be looking for a game late in the season where you may have one more week that you could play, even if it's after you finish your conference play. So it's things like that that the ADs and the coaches can do to get a little bit more money in the accounts of their different programs.
Okay, we're talking right now with Coach Heiss Northern, our football guru on the World of Southwestern Athletic Conference and FCS football playing levels. And, Coach, there have been some playing with the committees from the NCAA about some potential changes as far as implementing a 2-minute warning and a 1-minute stoppage of play for injuries with a 10-second runoff. Do you see this becoming a reality, and how do you see that trickling down and affecting us on the FCS level?
Well, whatever they do at the FBS level is going to happen here. But what they're trying to do, because some of the college football games with the clock rules and the rules on passing, with the clock stopping, especially early in the quarter, they are trying to shorten the game for TV, because some of those games are, they if you ever go to a TV game, how long it's scheduled for, it's usually scheduled for 3 hours. But when you go back and look at the reality, you'll have a lot of games that's cutting off in the middle of the third or fourth quarter if it's two passing teams playing against each other a lot, because the clock is not running. So what they're trying to do is, let's keep that clock rolling so we can get games back down to the 2 hour 45 minute to 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3 hour mark, as opposed to close to the 4 hour mark. So that's what all those rules about TV is pretty much dictating everything that's done in college football, from the rules of the game to the conferences that the football powerhouses have to deal with.
Wow. So with that, are you in favor with this potential move?
I would be in favor of the 2-minute rule because it gives you an extra timeout. But I'm not in favor of punishing teams with the 10-second runoffs late in the ball game. But the problem is you will have some teams that are, fake an injury to stop the clock or to take advantage of the clock. And I've seen it done both ways, where the old rule was when the ball was kicked off, the clock started when it hit the guy, when the kicker kicked the ball, as opposed to when it was caught and ran by the defender. So what some schools start doing late in the ball game, they would intentionally get an offsides penalty on the kickoff and make the clock start running. I mean, guys would be 7 and 8 yards downfield, and then the return guy naturally is going to run the ball. Then they would get tackled. And then you have to say, okay, do I want to take the penalty and make them re-kick it or what? So that's why some of those rules, it sort of came into play, and then they went back out of play because, the football coach going to try to finagle a way to, like say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, almost type of deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You was reading my mind on that. I was just about to say that, man. There's always, as they say, some sportsmanship when you're dealing with trying to get an edge any way that you can. So
they might, a lot of coaches, they call it gamesmanship. So, hey, I can remember when I was coaching, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Thomas that was at Texas Southern, Bill Thomas. I thought he did a lot with a little bit at certain times. But at Grambling, I was the special teams coordinator, so we would, if we didn't get it on third down, we would run and punt the ball as fast as we could, because then it wasn't the substitution rules. So we every time we would get a stopped on third down, Coach Thomas would have one of his guys, fake an injury on his defense as they were coming off the field. And then you would see him when they got over by Coach Thomas, he pat him on the back like, good job, son. You slowed them down again for us. So, we call it gamesmanship. It ain't cheating, it's gamesmanship.
I know that's right. And I got my bag always open, ready to pull into it, reach out and get what I can. Yes, sir. So when we look at the gamesmanship and the opportunities that are existing now in the game, where do you see college football on the FCS level in 5 to 10 years?
Well, it depends on, it's going to almost depend on like the FBS level. If you can get some schools that can get a little money, get their alumni to give, and you don't have to give a lot to some of these kids, but it's going to turn into, at the FCS level, who's going to be able to do either cost attendance or some small NIL deals and be able to keep their guys that they develop on campus, or FCS football is going to be the new Division II/junior college football programs for the big boys, as they say. That's the only two ways it can go. It's not going, it can still thrive. I think HBCU football is going to always thrive in terms of, the love and dedication of the fans to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's going to turn into junior college football if we keep losing guys that come in and play real good for you. If they can, after they have a good year, say, let me go try take my talents to another level, as they would say.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this. What are you considering a small NIL deal?
Well, when I say small NIL, I'm just talking about some kids get a certain amount of money per month, whether it's between the $100 to $500 range, and you can do it based off of where's the kid from. You can bring a FAFSA into it. You can bring productivity into it. It's a couple different ways you can do it. And then you can just say, if you're in some of these small town schools, you can get a few businesses to say, hey, I'll dedicate X amount of dollars a month. And then you have a coach, player, like they say, the general manager, to say, okay, these guys are going to get X amount of dollars based off of, maybe what you did last year. If you make an all-conference team, it's almost like a bonus system. So that's what I mean when I say some small deals. Everybody's not going to be able to get $1,000 a month. But because of who that guy is and the level that he plays at, then you may say, okay, this person will get X amount of dollars. And I know some schools, I'm not going to say the name of the school, but, they had, once you came to that school, they had families that would take care of, it was mostly done with basketball programs, but they had families that would, once a kid came in, he met this family, and that family pretty much took care of that kid the 3, 4, however long that kid stayed at that university. Then when that kid left, they got another person. So it was almost like, those kids, when they go play minor league or summer baseball.
Yeah, they're adopted families, almost like a student exchange program.
That's pretty much what it was. But I know a school that's what they did. They would have, and it was like every Sunday that person would go to that family if they needed something. That's who they went to. So, you can do some things like that where you have alum that'll take care of a particular kid or kids, and, as they matriculate through the program. So it's a couple of different ways that you can do it, though.
Well, I don't want to incriminate myself, but we've somewhat done that for a long time. I don't know if it was legal or not, but, it's a way of, when you know a kid, especially if it's an out-of-state student, and you know that They might have some financial challenges. You just been like a surrogate parent to them, an extension of their family, and you just provide for them, not no strings attached or NIL deals to it, just because you know what it's like. At least I did when you come from St. Louis and you come to Texas and no family, and you always been empathetic with that to see, hey, you know what? Let's see what we can do. We can't do a whole lot, but we can help you. You don't need to be hungry, and you don't need to be totally broke. You know what I'm saying? You know, but I'm not paying you tuition or nothing like that. Help you get along the way. So, and that's something. Once again, that's that C word, though, Coach. That's something that I think works better without the involvement of the quote-unquote institutions. That has to be from people. That's why I think it's so important that you do have some type of extension of the community wherever your college is located with some of the locals that can help people get over that hump and, I guess for lack of a better term, being my brother's keeper.
Yes, and like I say, I think of, just at some of the schools that I've been at where sometimes a kid from out of town, their parents might not make it for senior day, and they have a local alum that's been with them from day one that know that kid from out of town, and they take care of that kid. And I know, I'll just put it like this. When I was at Brookshire Royal High School coaching, we had a kid that signed to play baseball with a school that I worked at before. And, I got word back that, hey, I got a kid from my high school coming up there. And they was like, okay, give him my phone number and make sure he knows to contact me if he needs anything. So it's things like that that'll take, both that kid and the school a long way, so that kid will think, man, I always got somebody I can, talk to, lean on. If I need $5 or $10 for some groceries or to wash my clothes, and mama can't send it right now, I got somebody that I can turn to. But that, like I say, that they end up being a big brother to that person's kids, or the grandson from the lady that graduated in 1975 that still come around sports and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the uniqueness that I've always talked about that we could do on our levels. And like I said, it might not make any headlines, but it's going to make an impact. And I'd rather make an impact than a headline, because all headlines are not good headlines. And when you're able to just reach out and make that little subtle impact, man, it can go such a long way.
Yes, it can, and people, like I say, people don't even realize it, how much it means.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking again with Coach Heist Northern about the ins and the outs of having a successful program. Because, Coach, I think a lot of people get a good team confused with a good program. A good team gets lightning in a bottle every 10 to 15 years, but a good program is always in the competitive upper echelon of things within their conference or division.
Yes, and it is a difference between teams and programs. Like you say, a program is like being on cruise control. You know where they're going to be. You know what they're going to do year in and year out. Like I say, that program, that team might be good 1 year, and then the next 5 years you don't know where in the world they are. And then, either they change coaches or they get the right one or two players in there, and then it gets back going again. But then after those couple of guys leave, then you back to scraping the bottom of the barrel. So, like I used to always tell guys, it's better to have a program than a team, because a program is pretty much self-sustaining, where a team is not.
Yes, sir. And a program has to do with that C word again. I don't talk about it, but it adds to that overall existence of the institution as a whole, and not just fragmented. Because and unfortunately, I'm not dogpiling. A lot of people, they go back to the Totten Rice connection. And for a moment, it was becoming a program, but when you look back on it now, that was more of a team, even though it was for some consecutive years.
Yes, sir. And I remember watching those guys play as a youngster, and it was different. But like you say, when you talk about caught lightning in a bottle, they had everybody wanting to see those guys play. And then after a couple of years of whatever reason, the budget or whatever, things fell off, and they hadn't been able to catch that lightning back in a bottle in a long time.
Coach, I was in conversation with some people a little while back, and they kind of, you know how you say that side-eye look, and they looked at me, but maybe I'm one of the lone wolves when it comes to this, and I know people have their picks of the litter, but I kind of embraced the SWAC world when they were all uniformed under Russell. Now, I know a lot of people said Russell was a bad deal, but I thought it was a good deal. Now, that was kind of long your time. How do you look back now and see the Russell deal as a whole for the conference in comparison to today?
Well, it may have been better for the conference as a whole because some of the schools couldn't get deals on their own, and a lot of their budget would go towards shoes, stocks, uniforms, and different things like that. Then when you brought Russell in, that saved on the budget, but what some people say the problem with Russell was you didn't get to pick from a whole lot of variety. So, you know, my thing was, and I was the head coach at Prairie View when the Russell deal was in place, so we didn't have the best of stadiums. We didn't have the best locker room. So, you know, we tried to, you know, I would look around at, you know, anybody that had purple and gold uniforms and see what can we do that was a little bit different. So we came up with the Laker jerseys. We came up with the camouflage jersey that a lot of people liked, some people didn't like. But, you know, we came up with something different to catch recruits' eyes because we knew our stadium wasn't going to do it. Neither was our locker room. So we did that. But the problem was, to be honest with you, at that time, the Prairie Views, the Valleys, the Alabama A&Ms wasn't a big draw to the Nikes and Adidas. So, like I say, they were spending a whole lot of money buying from some of those same companies as opposed to, you know, getting an allotment for that. So it was good for certain schools, but some schools probably lost out on money. Like I said, and I always go back to, as some people in Baton Rouge say, the big three, Southern, Grambling, and Jackson, because they could pretty much go out and get a deal with the Nikes, Adidas, and Under Armour where some of the schools couldn't. So it was good for everybody, but it did bring down some schools what they could have gotten if it wasn't for trying to make it available to everyone.
Okay, going back to that terminology of being my brother's keeper, or in this case, every man for himself.
Man, Mike, I am my brother's keeper type of guy, you know, and I put it to you like this, and people laugh at me when I say this. Money-wise, I should vote Republican every time. But for my people-wise, I lean Democrat, if you understand where I'm coming from, because I feel like the people in my family may benefit a little bit more. When I say my family, my aunts, uncles, cousins, and all them may benefit more based off Democratic policies. But if it was just based off of me and my wife and our income, we would vote Republican every time. But that doesn't, you know, it doesn't jive with the way that we live and the way that we think. And I think had I not gone to an HBCU, I probably would think differently. But I have always been a my brother type of keeper. But it's going to hurt some people. It might hurt me. It hurt me personally sometimes. But I think that's why I lean more towards my brother's keeper as a coach, as a person, than I do let me get all of mine and everybody else, you get your own.
Right. And back to that Russell reference, even though we know Russell is out of that business right now, as you look back from then to now, do you feel that it was better off as a whole for the conference and even some of the teams of the big three if they had stayed in a RAM, something of that nature?
Now, No, I think it would have been better for the conference, but each school sort of got into the you holding me down type of mentality instead of, hey man, if we stick together, we can demand more if we all say, look, this is what we're going to do at a minimum. And you can say, all right, some of the schools that we know are either underfunded, almost defunded, let them get a little bit more because we can go into our own whatever, or we can still get what we need per se from the Russells, the Nikes, because we still had the Nike shoe contract, but we had Russell uniforms. So, you could have still, parlayed that into let's get more. And then what you can do is, or what could have happened was, you could have got with the Walmarts and all these towns and say, hey, we need to have this merchandise in stores. I was just talking to someone the other day. We were talking about Texas Southern, and I was talking about I was at the Walmart about 5 minutes from Texas Southern campus and didn't see Texas Southern gear. Whereas, I was in Hempstead not too long ago. They had some Prairie View gear in there. Not a lot, but it was some. When I go to Walmart in Baton Rouge, I can go in every Walmart in Baton Rouge and find some Southern gear, and every now and then I might find some Grambling stuff. When I go to Ruston, Louisiana, I can go in there and find some Grambling gear. When I went to Montgomery and Jackson, Mississippi, I can find Jackson State gear. So we could have parlayed the Russell deal into some Walmart distribution, however you wanted to do it, and then you can, get more, or we could have gotten more from the deal than we did. But, I don't know why we didn't. Was it the individual schools? Was it Walmart themselves? Was it the conference? We sort of missed the boat on selling a whole lot of conference stuff. Because I like, for a while, a couple of years in a row, when my kids were on spring break, we did civil rights tours. So we went to, we passed through Arkansas. We stopped in Montgomery. So when we were in Montgomery, I bought Alabama State gear. When we stopped in Jackson, I got a Jackson State hat. When we stopped in, wherever we stopped at, we going to buy some HBCU gear, or either I'll call the equipment manager like, hey, man, this Heights Northern, I've coached at a couple of SWAC schools. I'm teaching or whatever. You got a hat or T-shirt you can send me because, I don't wear LSU gear. I don't wear Texas A&M. I don't wear University of Texas, University of Houston. If you see me, I got an Arkansas Pine Bluff shirt that I wear. I got a Jackson State hat that I wear. I got that's me. I don't wear all that other stuff. So we could have made a lot of money, in my opinion, on people wanting nice, quote unquote, authentic Russell gear, but we missed the boat on that.
Right. Hey, I didn't hear you say Prairie View gear, man.
Oh man, I got plenty of Prairie View gear.
I'll just mess with you.
When I go up there, I don't know, Coach and I supposed to power wow soon, but when I go up there, I'm always ask for, hey man, what hat y'all got, or what? Oh, I always ask for old stuff, and every now and then they might give me something that's recently new.
Right. Well, you made a reference about the big three, Jackson State, Southern, and Grambling. Not long ago, they were a bit disgruntled, as deservedly so, the Blue Bloods and, as you say, the big three. And one time they were talking about leaving the Southwestern Athletic Conference, I guess as a way of strong-arming or, just positioning or reaffirming their position and their popularity in connection with the conference. And I know Jackson of recent has been talking about preparing for FBS. Do you see that, becoming FBS part of any of our programs right now? And then if so, what do you think the impact would be if the big three or any of these others decide to leave the conference?
Hey, man, you about to make me turn into Cat Williams over here. Hey, man. Hey.
Oh, well, I guess I'll be Club Shay Shay then, right?
I ain't going to call you Shay Shay, though, but I tell you this much. If them jokers talking about leaving, all right, that'll be just like me going to there talking to my wife, talking about, baby, I'm gone, and we about to celebrate 20-year wedding anniversary. She probably going to look at me like, all right, then go ahead on. You know, what? Come on, Coach. Where they going? Now, it's some people that's going to want them, but I guarantee if those schools left the conference and didn't play against if I was the other HBCUs, I'd say go ahead and we're not going to play you, even if it hurt me a little bit. But I guarantee when they see, if they join the Southland Conference, when Nicholls State, McNeese State, and Northwestern State come to their place, they going to be praying for the days of Prairie View, Mississippi Valley, Jack, whoever coming in there, because, like you say, I put it like this. When I was in school when Southern started playing Northwestern State. We played them in the Superdome the first year, very nice crowd. The second year we played them at their place and set an attendance record at their stadium. I'm not sure if it still stands, but I guarantee it's probably in the top 2 or 3. All right? Then we played them at our home. My senior year, I think that was the first game of the year we played them at Mumford Stadium. And I guarantee they didn't bring probably close to 1,000 people. The same thing happened when I was coaching at Grambling. We played against McNeese. The first year we played them down there at their place, attendance record set. They come to our place, man, you could find seats everywhere. And they like to say, oh, we didn't know about the environment. Oh, man, come on. But I guarantee if those schools leave the conference, they'll be wishing for some SWAC football in a year or two.
Okay. Well, I didn't make that up. That was true. Now, they was talking about.
Oh, I know.
And that's how I feel about Tennessee State. Me personally, you want to go to the Ohio Valley Conference, you're entitled to do such, but I wouldn't play marbles against Tennessee State in anything if I'm the SWAC and the MEAC for that matter. That's just my opinion.
But I think theirs was something different because of a consent decree, and it wasn't just like they just chose. I think it was some kind of law. I think at one time they did want to join the SWAC or the MEAC, but it was something else going on up there. And I guarantee I'll find out. I'll talk to a couple guys that I know that coached up there, played up there, as to why it all happened, that they had to go to the OVC or whatever conference they're in. But it wasn't just, all right, we tired of playing against HBCUs, sort of like what Hampton and A&T did. It wasn't that deal. But like I say, it was something else more than just.
There was a state law that was talking about the travel budget in connection to why they rationalized them to go to the OVC. But bottom line is, if that's where you are, you play up in there and do what you got to do. Leave me alone. That's just me, And it might sound a bit dogmatic, but as you say, Coach, the truth serum is coming out. That's just the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at all this, so Coach, you say let them talk that talk if they want to, but they know where home is. They know where the bread is buttered, and there's no place like home, right? Click your heels 3 times, you still wake up in nomad's land. And there was a time when Prairie View was actually playing with the possibility of trying to venture over to the South, and I was like, oh, no, we got to stop all of this right now and come back to the middle, as India Ari would say. So there are so many things that go on beyond the scenes, and that's what I think people really appreciate about your segment here, Coach. I'm always getting some comments on how they appreciate your insight, your wisdom, and I'm not alone, sir. Some of them do consider you a guru. So
tell them I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as we get ready to go towards spring, and you said something, and I can ask this. We normally know that the spring game is the, inter-squad game, purple and gold, but would it be a twist or a wrinkle that if you had an inter-squad game, and I know budget would be a considering factor, but an inter-squad game with some of the teams that may not be on your schedule for that upcoming season to play an inter-squad game with your comrades from your conference? Wouldn't that be interesting?
Well, I think at one time they were talking about possibly letting that happen. Like, I know at some of the schools, they may let like their redshirt freshman team play against some of the prep schools in the area, or if there's a junior college close by, they may get a scrimmage in with them. But I don't know exactly how they did. Like I say, that's one of those things that I can find out. But I think that would be a good little interesting dynamic to play. You know, maybe even if it's a non-conference school that you don't play regularly, or you may say, all right, every other spring the FBS programs can play an FCS program, and then the other year the FCS can play a D2 school, but it has to be, they'll probably put within an hour and a half ride of your campus or something like that. So I think that would be interesting based off of how some of the high schools do their spring games. I know in Louisiana or Florida, they have like the spring jamboree, which I know in Florida, that was a very big recruiting time to have the jamborees when the college coaches would be out on the road, and you could go, just say if I was in Miami, I could go to a jamboree with three games. It's like a half game are being played at one stadium. Then Friday, I could go watch 3 games being played at this stadium. Saturday, I could go catch 2 games and then either come back home or stay in the area recruiting. But I think that's what sort of made the Florida high school football take off, was the spring jamborees that they had, along with, you know, just the natural state of the athletes. But everybody could go down there and they can watch guys play during they're still juniors but headed into their senior year, because you could see a lot of guys that may be going from the JV team to varsity, or some of those guys that were 16 years old that were 5'9" last football season, and now they're close to 6 feet 6'1" going into their senior year. So I wouldn't be opposed to playing one non-conference, like say maybe every other year or every year, that's within an hour or so ride. I couldn't see going up to Dallas to play, but I have seen schools maybe go, just say a Prairie View might say, hey, University of Houston or Rice or HISD, can we use your stadium to play our spring game and try to get some fans out? But you may lose your students, but you may pick up on some general fans. So it's different ways. I've seen some of the colleges go off and practice within an hour, 40 minutes of their campus just to get their name out. The SMU may go practice at the stadium that's closest to South Oak Cliff High School or something like that.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about Delmore Stadium. That's not a long commute from Prairie. That wouldn't be a bad idea, man. You might have struck something on that again, Coach. That's why we call you the guru, man. You come up with these out-of-the-box creative ways of getting things done. That's always a good thing. Now, Coach, we got to touch on this Super Bowl that just passed here before we get out of here. Now, I'm going to ask you, since you're the guru, I projected that the final score was going to be 24-21. Ended up, and I picked Kansas City, but it ended up being 25-22. My question is, Coach, do I get any credit for that?
I think you ought to get, you might get some bonus points. And the reason why I say, because you went under instead of over, almost like The Price is Right. So you had a good guess and you didn't go over. But that was spot on. Like I say, if you think about it, like I said, I thought San Fran had the better team, but you can't bet against Pat Mahomes.
Right. It was a little drag at first, Coach, but it got picked up in that late second half, and like you said, we ended up having another historical event, and it's unfortunate of the events that occurred just the other day at the parade, and hopefully they got the right rascals and they can nip all that in the bud. So with all that being said, Coach, it's time for you to get down to your final thoughts and comments for this week's segment, sir.
Well, I'm going to go back to one thing that you said. You said it was a little bit of a drag, and I think people don't understand good defensive football. So the drag part may have been when you had Brock maybe missing some wide open guys. He's throwing one in the dirt a little bit wide. that's not good football. But when you talking about guys coming off the edge making plays, you talking about Big Jones pushing the pocket back. Some of the blitzes that we saw, some of the we call it mug, where you showing 11 man by the line of scrimmage. Then next thing you know, they playing Tampa cover 2. That's some good football to me. And like I say, I had to watch the game by myself because I'll rewind it and look and see. Okay, I may label. Okay, Sam Mike Will. Where did this guy come from? Okay, this the safety. He going back to the outside half. All that type of stuff. That's good football to me. But when you see quarterbacks just missing wide open guys, that's bad. So I can take a close game as long as there's, some popping going on, some good blitzing going on, some guys making tackles and guys not getting another yard after they make contact. So it was good football when both teams were going 3 and out. That was decent to me, minus the quarterbacks missing wide open receivers. So
right.
It's just one of those types of things that's going to happen in football. But, to wrap things up, like I always said, sometimes you can't bet against certain people. And I also, too, while we were talking, football and coaching, this is the time of year where those coaches, they still getting up early in the morning for the workouts. And then I had a guy that played for us at Prairie. I'm not sure if you remember Sean Stevens, played wide receiver. So I just got word that Sean is the new head coach at St. Pius X High School in Houston. I think it's closer to the Acres Home area, if most people know where that is. But he just became the head coach over there. And, my daughter goes to Catholic school, and that's one of the schools that she is debating on going to. So, but, we got some guys, and I say we, that played at Prairie View that are doing an outstanding job in the high school coaching ranks. Sean got a head coaching job. I wouldn't be surprised if DeAndre Cooper doesn't get a head coaching job. He's the offense coordinator at C.E. King on the east side of the city, over in that Sheldon area, and they put up a lot of points this year. Unfortunately, I think they in the district with the North Shores and Westfield. They in a pretty tough district, but they put up a good number of points. So I think it's a lot of good coaches. And I actually saw a list from another guy that went to school at Prairie View. He sent me a list of everybody that played at Prairie View that's coaching high school ball. And I thought there was a good deal that those guys have going so they can contact each other. And also they contacting the coach at Prairie View like, hey, I got a good guy here, or we played against such and such. You may want to look at that guy that we played against. He's not at my school. I don't know what grade he's in and all that, but we played against him. So it's some good things going on with, some of the former Panthers and not to mention KJ Black getting a job on the NFL side or going to Atlanta. So it's a lot of guys that, played in the old stadium, as we say, that are doing some good things in the world of football outside of Prairie. And then they got their own coming back to be the offensive coordinator. And I hope that works out very well for Anthony Weed.
Yes, sir. As they say, a fresh pipeline for that PV connection to hope build on some future championship programs. So it's always good. And for the record, Coach, I am definitely a defensive guy. I prefer a tug and pull battle than the flying and skyride. They already got the rules set for offense anyway, so anytime you can get a good, strong defensive stalemate, I'm all in. But I guess part of the reason it was a drag for me because my Steelers wasn't in it. So that's why I didn't have a true horse in the race, but it ended up being a very competitive match. Well, Coach, we always appreciate you and all that you bring to the table. Hopefully by the time we get together next week, you've had a wonderful wedding anniversary to celebrate that we can kind of reminisce on briefly. I want to say congratulations to you for year 20 coming in. You're still playing a little catch-up. I got 34. And so, as they say, it's a good thing, though. It's a real good thing, and keep on keeping on. And there's always room for football, and there's always room for good, logical conversation. And we appreciate you so much. He is our guru, Coach Northern, all SWAC, in and out. We know he's a Southern grad. We don't hold that against him. And he's a Grambling Connect, PV Connect. He's just a SWAC man in and out. We definitely appreciate him. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We do appreciate you joining in with us each and every day. Follow me on X at the Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And do visit our website at obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.